Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to finally take a look at Greninja EX, which is, of course, not a new EX by any stretch of imagination, but it did get a very strong recent buff in the form of Ignition Energy. So for those of you who need a recap on what Greninja EX does, it's a 310 HP Fighting-type Terra Pokemon that uses Water Energy to attack, and it has two pretty solid attacks overall. I would say Mirage Barrage is probably like the better of the two attacks, but Shinobi Blade is still really strong. For a single Water Energy, does 170 damage, and you may search your deck for any one card. So, if you're missing piece for next turn, then yeah, Shinobi Blade will definitely help you out in a pinch. But the second attack for a Water 2 colorless, which is important because it means we can use Ignition Energy as well as a single basic Water Energy, says discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So of course, the main strategy around this deck is we're just going to use Ignition Energy and then discard it, because it's going to get discarded anyway at the end of our turn, so it makes sense to just use it and discard it, even if it is providing 3 colors. So it's a bit of a shame that Greninja doesn't have a slightly better move for a Water and 3 colorless, but it is what it is, and it's still a very efficient way of paying for the attack cost. So yeah, that's what this deck is really trying to do. You can play it a bit slower with Buddy and things, and focus more on Shinobi Blade, maybe even get some energy disruption there, play some Eri, things like that. But I think overall this deck is actually a pseudo turbo deck in disguise, because you kind of want to just evolve up as quickly as possible and get to a turn 2 Mirage Barrage if possible, and then KO 2 of your opponent's evolving basic Pokemon. And that's really what this deck is trying to do. Now, to be honest, this deck is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because I was worried with the recent inclusion of Shaymin from the set Destined Rivals, then all those fragile Pokemon are once again protected. But the thing is, I haven't really had too many issues where that's been a thing. Sure, in the first few turns, I've played against a few decks where my opponent has just popped down a Shaymin, and it's okay, I don't know what I do in this situation. I can boss KO Shaymin, but they might just bring it back with a Night Stretcher, so it is a bit rough out there if your opponent is playing a Shaymin. But I would say overall, it's not been the biggest issue in the world, and not every deck plays Shaymin as well, which is great. So for the support engine of choice, I've gone with the Dunsparce. Now this was based on a Japanese list that was pretty much running this exact same 60, but they were playing 1 or 2 cards that are only legal in Japan right now, such as the new Psyduck, which we'll be getting in Mega Evolution. So their list was playing the Dunsparce. I honestly really like the Dunsparce. I know a lot of people have given it a lot of flack recently and say that Dragalope is just so much better, but overall, I really like the draw 3 aspect, because sometimes you'll want extra things in your hand, like Rare Candy or certain energy, certain Pokemon that you might need. So yeah, the Dunsparce is really nice for just getting additional cards in hand. But yeah, once in your turn, you can draw 3 cards, and if you do, then you get to shuffle it back into your deck. And it's really nice as well, because if your opponent, for example, just knocks out one of your Pokemon, you can then promote a Dunsparce, which has free retreat anyway, and then shuffle it back in to promote another Pokemon if you get the right cards that you need, which is really nice. So yeah, I really like the Dunsparce as an engine. Dunsparce has free retreat, which is always great to have in a deck. This deck list also plays 2 copies of Fan Rotom, and initially I was okay, that seems a bit overkill, but I think the reason why it's so good in this deck is it gives you another out to getting a prize card in the first turn of the game. So you take a prize card, you then Mirage Barrage for 2 more, and then after that you can kind of close out the game with either a Dunsparce EX, which can attack, or you could use things Shinobi Blade and go for it that way. But overall, though, if you can catch your opponent off balance and basically take those first 3 prize cards against their evolving basics, then they'll have to bench more, basically, to stay in the game. At that point, you can just pick them off with multiple Mirage Barrage. So quite a potent combo overall. But this deck is also playing the TM Evolution Arven package as well, which is of course great for getting Frogadier in play, as well as your Dunsparce. But yeah, the Dunsparce EX is really cool, to be honest. I've not really had to use it that much, but it is here as a nice option. Tenacious Tail does 60 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon EX. So if you're against something like a Zekrom box, for example, where pretty much every other Pokemon that they're playing is an EX, or Raging Bolt, stuff like that, then Tenacious Tail can surprise them for a 1-hit KO, but the deck is more about using Mirage Barrage, really. So yeah, that's the key piece, but the Dunsparce is still quite nice to have. You can also use an Ignition Energy and play for Destructive Drill if you really wanted to, but I don't think it's super impressive. Sure, you'll be able to KO a Mimikyu or something, but again, I don't think it's that powerful really overall. But yeah, still a nice option to have. I'm also playing a Cleffa in this deck just because I don't think Buddy is super useful all the time. Like, you could run Buddy if you really wanted to, but I do actually quite like Cleffa, just the additional draw power if you really need it. Like, I haven't really had too many issues with consistency, but I think being able to run away to a Cleffa, especially when a lot of your Pokemon have free retreat with Dunsparce, then it's quite nice to have, really. But yeah, as for an ace spec, going with Sparkling Crystal. Have thought about using Super Box, like the Mystery Box thing, but overall, like, every card in your hand feels important in this deck, so like discards feel a bit rough. So I can see why like Sparkling Crystal gets used. And it also means that you can use like your second attack for 2 water energy. Or if you really have to, you can like Arven for like a Rare Candy into Greninja, and then attach a Sparkling Crystal, which is also really nice. So yeah, plenty of nice combos there. Also runs 3 copies of the new Hilda. Hilda's great. Hilda can just find you a Greninja and an Ignition Energy, I should say. But it can also just get you like a Dunsparce plus an energy. So, you know, it's a nice way of draw 3 as well as like finding energy. So yeah, would definitely recommend playing Hilda and then also playing some Artazon so you can actually attack with Rotom and get the board set up. But yeah, that's it for the deck list. Let me know what you think about Greninja down below. Do you think it's any better now with the new format, or do you think Shaymin will keep it at bay still? But yeah, it's been Ember Power, and thank you for watching. Okay, so just going into my turn, I think what I want to do here is just go ahead and use an Arven. And I'm going to grab probably just a Poffin for now, actually. Yeah, probably just a Poffin and a TM Evo. I could go ahead and use TM Evolution, but because they've actually gone and attached a Flittle, I think what I might do is just KO them, actually. So yeah, I'm going to use Fan Call. I'm going to grab a bunch of Pokemon. Get these guys out of the deck. So hopefully my opponent doesn't concede. The last 5 games I've tried to record with this deck, my opponent has conceded in the first few turns, which is brutal to say the least. But yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Right, Poffin. Poffin for the frogs. I don't know what it is about players online. I think it's because the like your rank changes so little if you like, you know, if you lose a game, but it just doesn't matter if you hit concede. So like Team Evolution's honestly not that bad, but also, you know, they have an energy on Flittle. I may as well do this. So yep, Assault Landing. Goodbye, Flittle. So they might have been safe if they hadn't put Lively Stadium in play. But then again, we had Artazon, so yeah, a bit of a unusual move from my opponent, to say the least. We'll go ahead and take the first prize. Hopefully it's something we can use. And Nest Ball, not super useful right now. Right, so here's Mimikyu. So the cool thing is we can actually bump their stadium and just knock them out with Artazon. Alright, a Brassius. What does Brassius do? I'm honestly not sure what I'm playing against here. Nest Ball for Mimikyu EX. Okay, I'm not sure what my opponent is cooking, but I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. Right. Okay, so at least they didn't concede, right? I will Artazon. So this will give them more basics, but we'll start to take KOs as well. We don't actually have any frogs or whatever on the board yet, but I'm not super worried. Like Mimikyu EX is not the most broken card ever. We don't need to do anything else in hand. If we can get an Ultra Ball, that would be great. An Ultra Ball would be fantastic. I would like to show off a Mirage Barrage in a game though. Like that's the aim of this video. Hilda, right. Hilda will do it. I mean, Hilda is literally the combo, so... Right. Fingers crossed my opponent doesn't, like, concede or anything. I'm hoping they don't. Another Flittle? You want to play Pheasantipity? Interesting. Okay. Dodrio. What is my opponent cooking? Their rank really wasn't that bad. It was 300 and something, if I remember correctly. But, I mean, we did just draw, like, Hilda, so... Alright, I'm gonna do the combo. They might concede, but we'll see. Ignition. I could get Jet Energy, and do Crystal and not like fork out the retreat cost, but I think this is fine. Yeah, we'll evolve this one. And then this way we can just smack the Mimikyu. Yeah, we'll smack the Mimikyu. And we shall also go after, I think, Doduo maybe? Although Spathra could be quite annoying. Yeah, I think we'll do like Crystal on here. And then, yeah, I think this is fine. Alright, my opponent's conceded, so well. Why am I not surprised?